There are only 6 words with the power to awaken in a woman a desire so intense that even she cannot understand where it comes from. And no, we are not talking about romantic poems, lines from a movie, or cheap seduction tricks. We are talking about an almost invisible psychological power that most men are unaware of. And precisely for that reason, they fail with women. Because let me tell you a truth you might not want to hear. Men do not lose women because they are unattractive, because they do not have money, or because they do not know how to flirt. They lose them because they never learn to understand the invisible language of desire. Most men think that winning a woman over consists of giving her more attention, sending her more messages, or showering her with compliments. But that is precisely what ends up extinguishing the attraction. What a woman truly longs for, even if she never says it directly, is to experience something that breaks her routine, intrigue, challenge, and mystery. And that is where these 6 words come in. They work because they do not try to convince her of logic. They awaken her instinct. And when it comes to attraction, a woman's instinct does not respond to reason, but to emotion, to the visceral. She will not sit and think, I like his words because they are intelligent. No, what she will feel is a tingling sensation difficult to explain, an impulse to get closer to you, to seek your attention, even without understanding exactly why. The philosopher John Searle, in his work on speech acts, observed that language does not merely describe the world, but can fundamentally alter the social and psychological reality of those who hear it. These 6 words, when spoken with the right intention, become acts of persuasion that reshape how she perceives you. And here comes the most controversial part. Many men believe that attraction works as an act of justice. They think that if they are good, attentive, and try hard enough, then a woman should desire them. But attraction has never worked that way. A woman does not feel desire for the man who puts her on a pedestal. She feels desire for the one who, with just a few words, manages to make her feel different from everyone else. Want some solid proof? Look around you. The men who attract women the most are not always the most handsome or the richest. Often, they are completely ordinary men, even with obvious flaws, but they possess the ability to say exactly the right words at the right time. And those words, however simple they may seem, activate a deep mechanism within the female mind. That is precisely what you will discover in this video. Do not expect magic phrases to manipulate or cheap seduction games. What you are going to learn here is much more powerful. These are 6 words that, from a Stoic psychology perspective, will help you project confidence, mystery, and self-control. Because a Stoic man does not beg for love or seek validation. He speaks little, but when he does, every word carries weight. And when you learn to use these 6 words, you will notice something curious. That woman who barely paid attention to you before will start noticing you. The one who seemed distant will begin to want to know more about you. And the one who took you for granted will start to feel that she could lose you. So get ready, because what you are about to hear will not only increase your attractiveness, it will make you impossible to forget. First, the true hidden power of words. It's not just what you say that matters, but how you say it. Many men believe that women are primarily attracted to what they see, an attractive physique, elegant clothes, or an expensive car. But the reality is different. What truly awakens their desire often does not come through the eyes, but through the ears. Words possess an invisible power capable of igniting or extinguishing their attraction in a matter of seconds. Think about it for a moment. A man can be very physically attractive, but if he opens his mouth and conveys insecurity, neediness, or excessive complacency, that attraction vanishes immediately. On the other hand, another man can be completely ordinary in appearance with nothing extraordinary about him, clears throat. But when he speaks, he exudes confidence, serenity, and mystery, and then the woman begins to feel something she cannot even explain herself. That is what I call the true hidden power of words. It is not just what you say, but how you say it. Because a single word spoken with confidence can have far more impact than an entire speech filled with doubt. This is where Stoic psychology comes in. The Stoic man does not speak just for the sake of speaking. He does not need to fill every silence or impress with endless speeches. He speaks little, but every word he utters carries intention. And this way of communicating automatically evokes respect and desire in many women. because the words that come from a man who respects himself leave a mark that is hard to erase. Now, why does this have such a powerful effect? Because women instinctively assess a man's worth not only by his actions, but also by the way he expresses himself. A firm, brief, and confident word conveys the following message: this man does not need approval. He is not chasing after me. He walks beside me, and that awakens a much deeper attraction. Imagine a very common situation. You are talking to a woman, and she asks you, "What are you looking for in a relationship?" 90% of men immediately go into interview mode. They start giving long explanations, trying to sound perfect and say exactly what they think she wants to hear. I am looking for something serious, a special woman, someone who compliments me. And what happens? It all ends up sounding needy. It sounds like they are trying to convince her to choose them. On the other hand, a man who understands the true power of words responds calmly, without overcomplicating things or making excuses. I am looking for the same thing as you, but without rushing. 6 clear, firm, and anxiety-free words. And suddenly something different happens in her mind. Mystery and curiosity emerge because that short phrase does not give her all the answers. On the contrary, it opens up new questions. And when a woman starts asking herself more questions than you reveal, that is precisely where desire begins. That is why the secret has never been talking too much, but using a few words with real impact. That is the hidden power that most men never learn to master. Now, let us move on to the second point. Why does excessive romanticism kill attraction? Most men believe that to win a woman over, they must become increasingly romantic. They think they should send long good morning texts, constantly give flowers, be available all the time, and repeatedly tell her how much they value her. It sounds nice, but in practice, it usually produces the opposite effect. Why? Because excessive romanticism communicates something very dangerous: neediness. And neediness, even when disguised as affection, ends up feeling like pressure. A woman does not desire a man who overwhelms her with constant attention. She desires a man who maintains his composure, who does not lose his emotional balance trying to please her. Many men mistakenly believe that being overly romantic automatically equates to being desired. However, excessive romanticism communicates that you have placed your own value on her, and that your happiness depends on her responding to you or paying attention to you, and that, far from attracting her, ends up cooling her interest. The philosopher Blaise Pascal, in his Reflections on Human Nature, observed that the heart has its reasons, which reason knows nothing of. When you overwhelm her with emotion, you are appealing to her reason, trying to convince her with volume. But attraction is not convinced, it is felt. It emerges in the spaces between words, not in the flood of words. Now, do not misunderstand this. I am not saying you should be cold or insensitive. An occasional gesture can be very powerful as long as it comes from confidence and not neediness, and that difference changes absolutely everything. An insecure man writes, "I miss you so much. I cannot stop thinking about you," desperately hoping for an immediate response. A confident man simply says, "I thought of you when I passed by here." Notice the difference. The first is seeking attention. The second simply shares a thought without expecting anything in return, and that completely changes the dynamic. Exaggerated romanticism is like an overpowering perfume. At first, it might seem attractive, but over time, it becomes suffocating. A woman senses it, and instead of feeling more desire, begins to lose interest. She starts to wonder, if this man is so obsessed with me, why does he seem to have nothing else important in his life? Imagine a real-life scenario. A man goes on a first date with a woman, and as soon as the date ends, he starts bombarding her with messages. "You are the most beautiful woman I have ever met. I cannot wait to see you again. I cannot stop thinking about you. You are already very special to me." When she reads all of that, she does not think, "How romantic. I like him even more." What she really thinks is, "He does not even know me well enough, and he is already acting like I am the center of his universe." And right at that moment, the attraction starts to fade. On the other hand, a man who understands Stoic psychology does not feel the need to fill every silence. After the date, he might send a short message like, "It was nice seeing you." Just 4 words, not cloying, not over the top, but those 4 words leave room for her to feel. And when a woman senses that you are not chasing her, but simply enjoying your life peacefully, that is when she starts to seek you out. That is why excessive romanticism does not make you the man of her dreams. It makes you predictable, and attraction never stems from predictability. The third point is the 6 forbidden words that awaken her desire in a way she could never imagine. These words are simple, yet their impact is profound. They are not a script to recite, they are an expression of a mindset. The first word is perhaps. When a woman asks you something, especially something that seeks reassurance or commitment, responding with perhaps creates a space of uncertainty that her mind will try to fill. She will wonder what you meant. She will think about you more. The second word is enough. When you tell her you are enough, you are giving her a validation that is rare because it is not conditional. It does not say, you are enough for me because you did something. It says, you are enough as you are. And that is profoundly attractive. The third word is still. When she is testing you, when she is trying to see if you will react, saying still communicates that you are not moved, you are not shaken, you are steady. The fourth word is no. This is perhaps the most powerful word of all. A man who can say no to a woman, not in a harsh or rejecting way, but in a calm, grounded way, communicates that he has boundaries, he has standards, he is not desperate. And that is magnetic. The fifth word is later. When she wants something from you, when she wants your attention, your time, your validation, saying later with calm confidence communicates that you are not at her beck and call. You have a life, and that is deeply attractive. The sixth word is yes, but not a desperate, eager, approval-seeking yes. A calm, grounded yes. A yes that comes from a place of choice, not from a place of need. When you say yes to a woman from a place of abundance, she feels chosen rather than needed, and being chosen is far more powerful than being needed. The fourth point is how to ignite her attraction without begging for attention. Mystery and intrigue instead of neediness. Women are drawn to men who are not easily deciphered. This does not mean being mysterious as a performance. It means being a person who has depth, who does not reveal everything about himself in the first conversation, who has a life that is not fully visible. When you are not constantly broadcasting your thoughts, your feelings, your availability, you create space for her curiosity, and curiosity is the gateway to obsession. There is a psychological principle called the Zeigarnik effect, which states that people remember uncompleted or interrupted tasks better than completed ones. When you leave something unfinished, when you do not give her the full picture, her mind will keep returning to you trying to solve the puzzle. That is why strategic silence, a well-timed pause, a conversation that ends before it has fully run its course, these create a hook that keeps her thinking about you. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that we should not seek to have events happen as we wish, but to wish them to happen as they do happen. When you are not trying to control her attention, when you are not desperate for her validation, you become someone who is at peace with whatever outcome comes, and that peace is magnetic. It tells her that you are not a man who needs her approval to feel whole, and that is the most attractive thing you can offer. Finally, the fifth point is the Stoic difference. Speaking less and making a much greater impact when your words are worth more than 1,000 gifts. The Stoic man understands that his words are a reflection of his inner state. When he speaks, he does so with intention. He does not fill silence with noise. He does not offer empty compliments. He says what he means and means what he says. And that kind of integrity is rare. In a world where everyone is performing, the man who is simply present, who speaks with weight, who listens more than he talks, stands out. He becomes someone whose attention is actually worth something. And when a woman feels that, when she senses that your words are not cheap currency, but something precious, something that costs you something to give, she values them. She values you. The writer and philosopher Michel de Montaigne, in his essays on human experience, wrote that the value of life lies not in its length, but in its use. When you speak with intention, when you make your words count, you are using your life well. You are not wasting your breath on things that do not matter. And that is a quality that women notice. It is not about having the perfect line. It is about being the kind of man whose words come from a place of depth, of experience, of self knowledge, and that more than any romantic gesture is what makes you unforgettable.